AO.
I see an enemy.
Contract was compromised. Stand down. Mark remaining operators from that squad. Hunt them down.
Switching mags!
Much appreciated.
The squad's in the safe zone. Gas is closing in.
I'm reloading!
Enemy destroyed.
Reloading!
Use your tac map to hunt down the rest of them. Loadout drop headed your way.
They tagged me!
Friendly loadout drops on the way. Got a loadout drop inbound.
Bastards! They're shooting at me!
Kill.
Switching mags.
Marking the rest of that squad on your tac map. Get hunting.
Changing mags!
Kill confirmed. We've located the rest of them.
Changing mags!
Yo, who wants to try my loadout?
Cool.
Your squad made it to the safe zone. Gas is moving. Your squad mate is redeployed. Well done. Enemy soldier incoming. Your squad mate's back on station. Good work.
Reloading! I'm reloading!
Good kill. Marking the rest of that squad on
Switching
your
mags.
tag map. Get hunting. You're in the top 10. Keep knocking them down. Target down. Marking the rest
I'm
of them.
reloading! Taking effective fire!
Enemy destroyed. Use your tac map to hunt down the rest of them. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Reloading!
You're being tracked by an enemy. Evade and survive.
Changing mags!
Location.
I'm dead!
Mark the remaining operators from that squad. Hunt them down.
Good as new!
We've got 10 squads
Changing
active in the
mags.
field.
I'm reloading! Right!
Resurgence is about to end. Make it count. Enemy
I need
destroyed.
ammo.
Use your tac map to hunt
Bastards!
down the rest.
Shooting at me!
Target down. Marking the rest of them. Be advised. Still have squad mates outside the safe zone.
Switching mags!
Good kill. Marking the rest of that squad on your tac map. Get hunting. You have reinforcements inbound.
Changing mags!
Your squad mate is marked as a most wanted target. Kill enemies and secure supply caches to help remove the bounty on their head. Enemy dropping into the AO. No more second chances.
Changing mags! Reloading!
Contract failed. Objective lost.
I'm back in the AO!
Your squad mate survived. Contract complete. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Head to the safe zone. They're losing ground. Moving.
I'm right on ammo! I'm reloading!
You've got 4 remaining. Stay sharp. 5 squads still operational in the AO. Top 3. Don't let up now.
Switching mags!
Stand to you, soldier. Stay sharp.
Good as new! Forza! Buy me back! Hey, I'm ready to redeploy.
Got
Buy
gas
me
moving
back!
in.
Took around!
Only 2 left. 3
Forza!
squads
Buy me
left in
back!
the war zone. Stay alert. You were 1 of 5 remaining. The enemy took that one, but we'll get them back.
Incoming shots!
LGA 1700 CPUs are going to be more popular because of supporting DDR4? I can't believe the timeline we're in, but yes, they could absolutely make a comeback. We had no idea when they launched that multi-RAM compatibility would ever be this important, but being able to use DDR4 instead of DDR5 is monumental during this RAM shortage. ASRock is already trying to help us out with a motherboard that supports both. Even if you want a really high-end system for video editing with 64 gigs of RAM, the price difference between 64 gigs of DDR5 and DDR4 is like $300 at least. You can still pair a high-end Intel i7 with 64 gigs of RAM and a top-of-the-line GPU. That'll be an amazing system without you having to pay the obnoxious price of DDR5. DDR4 is still very expensive, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as obnoxious, at least for...
Jumped into place right after he died. And then she brought up, and let me have that, let me have this, where I know where my husband is buried. Let me and my babies, have that. She's bringing all that up, but you were the one that did the video on Instagram of you rubbing his hand and kissing his hand. A very intimate moment, which everybody thought was weird. When I first saw it, I was like, dang, that's jacked up. But I'm like, I wouldn't share that. That's crazy as hell. Why would I share that with you?
Check weapons and gear. We're holding for deployment. Enemy soldiers incoming.
I'm dead! Enemy down!
All stations,
Changing
we got
mags.
3 to go. Stand by for deployment. Resurgence. Survive to redeploy fallen teammates. Kill to bring them back faster. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Grenade! Taking effective fire! Charging mags! Reloading!
Mark remaining operators from that squad. Hunt them down.
Changing mags! Switching mags!
Locating the rest of them. Some of your squad is outside the safe zone.
I'm
Squad
reloading!
mates back on station. Good work.
Reloading!
Be advised, there's an enemy squad gunning for you.
Reinforcing armor.
Loadout drop headed your way.
They tagged me! I need medical!
Fiber.
I'm back in the
Returning you
AO!
to the front. Earn this. Contract failed. Stand down. Your squad mate's MIA. We're reducing redeployment time. Enemy soldier incoming. Your squad mate is redeploying. Well done.
Changing mags!
Good kill. Marking the rest of that squad on your tag map. Get hunting.
Shooting at me! Changing mags!
Kill confirmed. Located the rest of them.
Switching mags!
Get your squad to the safe zone. Leave no one behind. Ten remaining. Target down. Marking the rest of them.
Requesting close air support. I'll be back. Changing mags.
We've got 10 squads active in the field. Time for vengeance. You're redeploying. Enemy dropping into the AO. Remaining operators from that squad. Hunt
I'm
them down.
reloading!
Get ready. The insurgent's window is about to close.
Grenade!
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Some of your squad is outside the safe zone. Enemy destroyed. Use your tac map to hunt down the rest of them. Your squad mates back on station. Good work.
Reinforcing armor.
I'm back in the
Back
AO!
on station. Go get after it. Mark the remaining operators from that squad.
Reloading.
Hunt them down. Be advised, the insurgents are no longer active.
Changing mags!
You've made it to the top 5.
I'm hit!
5 squads still operational in the AO.
I'm back in the AO!
Move to the safe zone. Gas is inbound. You're in the top 3. Don't let up now. squad mates outside the safe zone. Enemies dropping into the AO.
Get me medical!
You've got gas moving
Changing max.
in. You're in the last two. Now finish it. 3 squads left in the war zone. Stay alert.
Loading fresh max.
Less than 5 are still standing. Next time we'll take that victory. They hit us hard that time. Dust yourself off, regroup, and get back out there.
Prove their own.
XFX RX 6600 GPU, which also has pretty low power requirements. After all, I am trying not to create a portable bonfire. Then I quickly hit my first snag. One of the biggest challenges was keeping everything quite thin, and all of the memory modules I could find were about as thin as a brick. It would have been easy to use a low-profile motherboard that takes laptop RAM and even runs off of DC power, but using laptop components goes against the spirit of my challenge, and these motherboards are rare enough that it would be much harder to upgrade it down the road. After searching around, I found these angled DDR4 memory slots, which would have given me plenty of clearance, but there's zero chance of me actually soldering these in place successfully. Finally, I found these VLP, or very low profile sticks of RAM, that are only about 60% the height of regular RAM, which was perfect.
Voice is simply faster, more natural, and more flexible than typing. He said he's voice pilled, and I can see why.
So I ordered 32 gigs of it. I also picked up a 16-inch, 120Hz QHD portable gaming monitor and a thin scissor key keyboard. These would both need some serious liposuction to make them thin enough, but that was a problem for future me. Finally, I grabbed a USB touchpad and a 300-watt Pico DC-to-DC power supply. This wasn't going to be enough power long-term, but it should be enough for testing, and by testing I mean seeing how close we can get to starting an electrical fire. With the essentials in hand, I figured it was a good idea to throw everything together and install Windows for a bit of testing, since I was about to massively violate the warranty of nearly every single component. The only real issue was with the power brick I was using, which was getting hotter than my mixtape. After swapping it for a much beefier DC power supply, it all seemed to be fine, so it was time for the real insanity to begin. Eyeing up my build, it was clear that I had a lot of work ahead of me to somehow shrink all of this down to fit inside the profile of a normal laptop. But I decided to pretend like I didn't notice any of that and just tackle it one part at a time, starting with the motherboard. After stripping it down, I removed the Wi-Fi card, followed by the VRAM heatsink. That just left us with 3 sets of ports that were too tall to fit: audio jacks, Ethernet, and some USB ports. Thankfully, we can find ways to use all of these things without the rear ports, so it was time to remove them. The right way to do things would be to desolder them, making for a clean removal. Sadly, my soldering iron simply wasn't up to the job, so now the right way to do things would be to buy a decent soldering gun, but local stores didn't have them in stock and I'm not a patient person. So we're gonna do things very much not the right way. For this method, we just need our poverty pry bar, the Vasectomizer 5000, and a set of lobster fingers. I'm 74% sure the warranty is void at this point, but after a while, we have a crime scene of parts and a motherboard that is looking much more lean. Now, I have to admit, I had no actual idea if you can just rip ports off of a motherboard and have it still function. It seemed like it would just appear to the motherboard as if nothing was plugged in, but I really didn't know, so I decided to hook everything back up and see if it would still boot. Come on. Come on. Okay, so I guess you can't just rip everything off of a motherboard and expect it to work. Alright, I guess I'll get another motherboard and maybe try desoldering and see if that works. Oh, wait. What? Dude! I obviously wouldn't do this if I didn't know it would work. That would be dumb. I was never worried. I did a quick check to make sure everything was still recognized, that network and sound all showed up in Device Manager, and everything seemed to be business as usual. So, taking that as my thumbs up to continue, I moved on with the video card. Now, this guy obviously sticks up a lot when plugged into the motherboard, but with a PCIe adapter, I can place it on its side. However, if you compare the size of the GPU with a laptop, we still have a problem. But the actual card itself isn't that thick. We're mostly looking at heatsink and plastic, so I started to tear it down. And with everything gone, you can see that he really is just a little guy. This will work just fine, as long as we don't need to cool it, but that's another problem for future me. I'd really hate to be that guy. Around this time, I really wanted to start figuring out how to lay out the components, so I started designing the case. Looking at other laptops for inspiration, I noticed a trick that all of them use. Looking at a laptop like this from the side, it looks pretty thin, but that's really just smoke and mirrors. The narrow sides taper very quickly, so the actual bulk of the laptop is about twice as thick as the side profile suggests. I decided to use this trick to design the base, and after a lot of measurements and time in CAD, I had a design that I thought would work pretty well. It was far too big for my 3D printer, so I printed it in 4 different sections and carefully heat welded them together with a soldering iron.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone, but getting in the zone.
Now, this looked like it would work, and laying out all of the parts, it was starting to feel like this could actually come together. But if you've ever 3D printed something before, you might already be aware of a huge issue with this. And that is that 3D printed parts do not mix well with heat, and gaming PCs tend to produce quite a bit of heat. To solve this, I fell back on a trick. I applied a thin layer of JB Weld to the part almost like paint. In the past, this has allowed parts that I've printed to withstand high temperatures for years without melting. So I gave the laptop base a solid coat. It needs some paint, but this should be fine structurally. So now let's go over the plan for cooling.
So here's the plan. I don't have one. Great.
I went in not expecting much from this since there are several issues with this setup, which I'll get to in a moment. But after a lot of mockups in Photoshop, I decided on a layout. Then the trusty Amazon deliverer brought me some goodies. To attach everything to the CPU and GPU, I got some copper shims thinner than my chances of this working, along with a mess of heat sinks short enough to actually fit in the case and a set of heat pipes. Laptops make pretty extensive use of heat pipes to carry heat away from the chips to the heat sinks, where the fans can then remove the heat from the case. And heat pipes are pretty much magic. They are a vacuum-sealed tube containing a liquid that heats up, turns into a vapor, transports heat to the other end, turns back into a liquid, and travels back to the hot end through a copper wick using capillary action, and it does all of this extremely fast. But these heat pipes are never going to line up as they are, and you're supposed to use special tools and processes to bend them into shape. But as you can see here, one of the heat pipes arrived looking like it had lost a bar fight, and I figured that would be a good test of how much function is lost by a pretty serious bend. Testing it out by dipping it in hot water, I was surprised I couldn't tell a difference between how it performed compared to the other ones. So since I was pretty sure this whole setup wasn't going to work anyway, I decided to just fail quickly and move on to the next idea. Using a metal flashlight, I got to work curving the heat pipes into the shapes I needed. It seemed worth trying. So I started to make 2 heatsink units, one for the CPU and one for the video card. I sanded everything as flat as I could, and using thermal paste, pressed the heat pipes onto the copper plates that will attach to the chips. With a small dab of glue holding them in place, I mixed some JB Weld with a bit of thermal paste to help move heat around better. Then I clamped everything in place with a lot of pressure to ensure the parts were smushed together as closely as possible to help with heat transfer. At the other end, I aligned the heat sinks with the heat pipes the best I could, even though the placement wasn't completely ideal. And 24 hours later, we have these abominations. Doing some test fitting, it all seems to line up. I put together a temporary setup for testing. Silicone sheets are taped together to keep heat away from the keyboard, fishing line through the board for mounting, and some popsicle sticks which bend nicely to provide a lot of pressure. This might be the jankiest part of the whole project, but there are a lot of other things to worry about, so we'll fix that when we need to. Probably. So I threw the original fans on them and booted it up for some stress testing. It actually seemed to be stable, and temps were a bit high but not unreasonable. However, this was only the case when blasting them with the stock fans, which were not going to fit. I wanted to use these slim blower fans, but they just don't move enough air to keep things cool under load. I had trouble finding larger fans that would fit, so I decided to make my own. This design would use the stock AMD fan motor with long, thin blades to pull air in from the center intake and force it out through the opening. After putting it together and doing some test runs, it seemed to move a ton of air. I attached it to the CPU heatsinks using aluminum tape to duct the air all the way through where it can exit the case on the other end. I also modified one of the GPU fans to blow directly onto the video card. I tried making another blower fan, but it really seemed to perform best with this one, so I decided to stick with what worked. Now, to make sure everything would have enough clearance to fit, I wanted to move on to making the keyboard tray. First, I needed to get the scissor key keyboard out of its housing, which took a bit of brute force. I lost a few keys, but those can be popped back on later. Laying everything out, it seemed like it would fit, and I lined everything up so there would be room for the USB cables to plug in. With some measurements in hand, I made a simple keyboard tray in CAD. After printing it out and fusing it together, I did some trimming on the original top panel from the keyboard case so I could reuse it. After securing it with some JB Weld, I filled everything in with a filler compound and sanded it down until I had a nice smooth surface. This seemed to work, and after some paint, I was pretty amazed at how nice it looked. I just needed one more thing, a power button. I went with a kind of unique shape, and after some finishing, I hit it with a metallic copper paint, which I thought would look nice next to the flat black case. And I was so happy with how it turned out that I decided to also add some copper accents to the sides of the panel. The keyboard and touchpad were pretty easy to mount using some JB Weld, and I didn't mind how its gray color looked as a sort of touchpad bezel, so I decided to leave it. From here, I decided to move on with the LCD screen. This is a nice 16-inch QHD portable monitor with a 120Hz refresh rate, but it was way too thick to use it as is. After breaking it open, I was relieved to see that the actual LCD panel was extremely thin, and the control boards already had cables long enough that I could just put them in the bottom part of the case. It even came with tiny speakers that I could reuse for audio. Now, to hold the unwrapped LCD panel, I needed a lid. I've never found a term that I quite like for this part of the laptop, but I designed it in CAD and printed it in several parts to heat weld together like I did with the base, and reinforced with JB Weld plaster to withstand opening and closing and to hold up to higher temperatures if needed. I also made a front bezel to go around the screen and some hinges to mount everything to the bottom case. After some off-brand Bondo and sanding, it was time for some paint. But I didn't want the back of the lid to look boring. I figured this is a custom build and I pretty much have a blank canvas to work with. So I mocked up a design going with a copper and gold theme with a blue accent stripe. And since most laptops have a logo in the center, I thought mine looked weird without one. I decided to put an S from the channel logo here. I avoided going with two S's since it kind of reminded me of something else.
It's Hostinger's biggest ever Cyber Week sale. Hostinger AI website builder plans now start at just 2,900 Naira a month. Go online in minutes with AI, plus get a domain name and extra month for free. Get 24/7 expert support and try it risk-free with our 30-day money-back guarantee. Join more than 4 million people making their dreams a reality online. Go to hostinger.com/ng and launch your website today.
I originally wanted a smooth copper finish, but I didn't let the body filler dry enough prior to painting, which reacted with the spray paint and cracked like crazy. But I decided to leave it because I really like the way the finish turned out. It reminds me of raw copper ore, and I thought it looked really cool. After definitely not getting sidetracked while using my airbrush gun, I had the blue accent line in place. I printed out the S from the channel logo, painted it, and glued it on the back, and I thought it looked pretty nice. Flipping the lid around, it was time to mount the LCD. This was held in place with a few globs of epoxy putty, and then I pressed the bezel in place to complete the assembly. Then I cut some pads out of silicone to act as bumpers so the LCD doesn't just slam into the keyboard tray whenever it's closed. I designed some simple hinges, which use screws to clamp down really hard on some silicone pads so I can open and close the screen without having it slam into stuff. Next, I needed a back panel to cover this nightmare of wires after I shove everything in. After printing it, I used a really thick clear paint to get a brush texture, painted it in copper, and added a carbon fiber wrap to finish it off. It just barely managed to contain everything, and I think it looks pretty good with the rest of the laptop. Finally, I wanted to make my own power connector. The external power supply was pushing out a whole bunch of amps, and I really didn't like the connector that came with the power supply. It felt extremely hot to the touch, so I made my own connector, which uses these pretty strong butt connectors to pass current through multiple wires. These two both carry 12 volt positive, these two handle 12 volt negative, and this one is a ground connection. This was designed to plug into this cutout in the side of the case, and I felt a lot safer using this more robust plug. I also ordered some battery control boards and a bunch of lithium cells, but I kind of lost interest. I don't know about you, but I've never seen much point not plugging in a gaming laptop, and the battery usually only lasts maybe 30 minutes tops anyway. I'd kind of rather leave some room in the case for better airflow, but maybe I'll come back to this in the future. Even though I'm kind of tired of looking at it after 14 months of work, I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. It's far from perfect, but I think it went alright.
The fact is that I didn't enjoy anything in this whole video, as good as it may sound. It didn't just work well. One man. Well, let's go back home.
These are soybeans that were in water for 12 hours. Add 1 cup water. 콩비지찌개.
남편, 我来这个是最严了。
This didn't really work. Too much water? These carby ribs. Uncut carby ribs. Onion. Half cup soy sauce. Brown sugar. Cup water. The marinade. Oh, looks nice. Meat.
콩비지. 아, 콩비지 맛있겠다. 와.
Look at that. Thinly sliced picanha, Australian Wagyu. This is boneless Australian Wagyu. This is Japanese A5.
와, 맛있겠는데?
Yeah.
와우.
This is the carton. Oh man, that was good. What the heck?
Sometimes I want to get...
I figured out how to turn my daily...
Attention singer-songwriter fans, would you like a free download? Then hurry, because I'm giving...
This is the Breitspurbahn, an enormous train, 6 meters wide, 7 meters high. Inside, it is incredibly luxurious and heavily armed. Hidden under a dome is an anti-aircraft installation. There are countless weapons on board and cabins filled with soldiers. The train was the brainchild of none other than Adolf Hitler. it was his personal favorite toy. While many of his megalomaniac projects were cancelled as the war progressed, he tried to force this one into existence until his end, because it was central to the Nazis' plans for world domination. Hitler was well known for his insane infrastructure projects. The German stadium was to be built in Nuremberg alongside the Congress Hall and the Zeppelin Field, with space for 400,000 people. It would have been the largest arena in the world. The Elbe High Bridge in Hamburg would have dwarfed the Golden Gate Bridge. These and many other projects were scrapped when the Nazis started losing World War II, but the Breitspurbahn was different. It was considered one of Hitler's favorite projects. In 1941, it was given top priority. Hitler personally demanded that all forces necessary be deployed to realize it. Although steel was already extremely scarce at the time, his project was granted 84,000 tons. We actually found the original plans for Hitler's monster train. The German historian Anton Joachim Stahler collected from several archives and published them in this book. Although the entire German industry was geared towards warfare, the Nazi leadership commissioned the same companies to develop the Breitspurbahn. Over 100 designs for locomotives and wagons were submitted. The distance between rails is called the track gauge. Even back then, the standard gauge of 1,435 millimeters was already widespread all over the world, with small deviations in some countries. Hitler originally wanted a 4-meter wide gauge for his train. After a lot of back and forth, he was finally persuaded to settle for 3 meters. The train itself was massive too, 6 meters wide and 7 meters tall. The length was up to 420 meters for the passenger trains and over a kilometer for freight traffic. A double-decker, as demanded by the Führer. Today's trains almost seem puny in comparison. Inside, the Breitspurbahn was supposed to be packed with luxury. The first class was located on the upper deck for better views. Here you had the most space, a lush interior with coat racks and comfy armrests. Directly below, usually on the lower deck, was the second class. Still spacious, the third class was a bit narrower. Additionally, there were countless communal areas. You could sip wine, smoke, and lounge on sofas in a bar. Similar setups, just without the bar, were found in a reading and socializing area. The planned dining car was particularly impressive. In the drafts, it was paneled with natural wood, adorned with gold and had chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It was supposed to be the only single-decker car, with ceilings so high you wouldn't feel like you were on a train. Besides this main hall, there were additional restaurants and breakfast rooms planned. The train was also to feature a cinema for almost 200 people. A smaller stage should host lectures and performances. The train was meant to travel far, so the plans included sleeping cars. In first class, after a spacious reception area, wealthy Nazis would find roomy sleeping compartments, with sofas, armchairs, a vanity table, and a large window with an outside view. The first class rooms were also supposed to have their own toilet, sink, and shower. The smaller bedrooms in second class only had a sink. Nevertheless, all passengers could freshen up in the bath car. It was supposed to host 4 bathtubs and 20 showers. Additionally, there were layouts for ladies' and gentlemen's hairdressing salons, so the undercut wouldn't suffer during the journey. Also, there were storage and staff rooms. A pastry shop would supply guests with snacks, fresh cakes, and all kinds of drinks. Another highlight was planned at the very end of the train, a fully glazed viewing platform. At this point, we wish we had a smooth bridge to today's sponsor, but that's pretty tough with this topic. They're a cool company though, and this is how we finance making these videos, so please hang on. Holzkern makes fantastic fashion accessories featuring natural materials such as wood and marble. They only use FSC certified or residual wood from the furniture industry. Holzkern has a collection of over 1,000 items to choose from. This watch, for example, is made from walnut wood and marble. This ring features maple wood, and this rose gold necklace has a moonstone embedded. Their build quality is great, and due to the natural components, every piece is unique. Through the link in the description below, and with the code FERN, you can get an exclusive discount of 15% on your first order. Thanks to free express shipping, it will be with you within 2 to 5 days. There is a 24-day money-back guarantee, so feel free to try out Holzkern. While the planned first and second class carriages could only accommodate about 200 passengers, there were more than twice as many seats in third class. They could have easily fit over 500 seats in third class, but with the Breitspoorbahn, they wanted to ensure a comfortable journey for everyone. Well, not everyone. These are designs for the so-called Eastern worker carriages. There were no seats, only benches for 8 travelers per compartment. These work slaves were supposed to sit on the benches during the day and sleep on them at night. This provided space for a total of 480 work slaves. They did not have access to the rest of the train. Their food was supposed to be cooked in a large kitchen next door, pushed through the train in buckets, and then distributed at a canteen. Let's zoom out at this point. What did Hitler aim to achieve with the Breitspoorbahn? Why did he prioritize it so much? On March 24, 1942, Hitler had lunch with his state secretary, Hermann Esser, and the architect, Hermann Giesler, in Munich. There he explained,
"Just as we need a fast connection to Constantinople, now Istanbul, we need a fast connection between Upper Silesia and the Donets Basin. We need trains that can travel at 200 kilometers per hour. We need to build wider carriages, preferably 2-story from the outset. The upper floor in particular must offer a good view. It must also be possible to use the tracks for double-track freight traffic. Only in this way will it be possible to develop the eastern region, especially economically, in line with our plans. Even if the implementation of this railroad program naturally involves a wealth of difficulties, we must not let this deter us."
I learned that ChatGPT works best with detailed prompts, but I hate typing them. So instead, I dictate them using WhisperFlow.
The Breitspoorbahn was key in Hitler's plans to conquer the world. He aimed to replace maritime shipping with trains. His broad-gauge rail network was supposed to stretch across the entire European continent and beyond. There were discussions about a route from the Mediterranean at Gibraltar through Spain, Marseille, the Rhone Valley, to Munich. Here, a huge junction station was supposed to be built. From there, it would head south to Rome, or eastward through Vienna to Budapest, Belgrade, Bucharest, and then to Istanbul. Another route was supposed to run from Brest through Paris, the Ruhr area, to Berlin. From the German capital, Breitspoor trains should have gone through Poland and Belarus directly to Moscow. There were plans to extend the Breitspoorbahn through Iran into Iraq, targeting the rich oil reserves there. There were ideas to build a railway all the way to Vladivostok on the Sea of Japan. Another line was supposed to reach British-occupied India. The Breitspoorbahn was not only planned for passengers, but also for freight transport. Hitler wanted to supply his Reich with raw materials and natural resources from all over Eurasia. At the same time, workers from the east were to be transported to factories and agricultural fields in Germany, hence the Eastern worker carriages. In the other direction, Germans should have spread across half the world by train. It was intended as a tool to mass colonize. As such, the Breitspoorbahn was heavily armed, in case they would meet local resistance. It was supposed to carry soldiers and had enormous ammunition chambers. The train could even be used to transport heavy weaponry, such as tanks or whole ships. Ultimately, the train was never built. After the war, some plans were taken to the Soviet Union. Files on the planned routes to France are said to be in Paris. They were not published and apparently not pursued further. That's not surprising. From the beginning, many experts of the German rail company were convinced that most of the Breitspoorbahn's areas of operation could also be covered by standard gauge trains. But of course, nobody dared to seriously contradict the Führer and talk shit about his toy. Like so many of Hitler's projects, the Breitspoorbahn was a gigantic, embarrassing show of megalomania. The leading Nazi architect, Albert Speer, said later,
"The more monumental and oversized in scale, the more enthusiastic Hitler would be about a project."
The Breitspoorbahn powerfully illustrates the extent of Hitler's conquest plans. The fact that he pursued such a bizarre project until the last days of the war shows how limitless his greed and madness truly were.
That's to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with him.
Well, this hasn't happened before. Apparently, we've bought a stolen car, and we're going to go through to see whether it is stolen, because right now we're kind of nearly at a point of no return. The engine of this supposed stolen car is now over here with a burnt out bottom end on one conrod. So we started repairing it, but before we go any further, we need to 100% know whether this car is stolen, cloned, or just not the right car that it should be. So if you missed the first video on the BMW M3 that I bought this car, which is a clean title car, not been involved in an accident at all. We were a bit sceptical on the mileage and the history of the car, but I got it from Copart at auction for a nice £23,000, but it did say it had a knocking engine. And we since took the engine out and found out, yes, it does have a knocking engine, but to repair it and fix it and get it back on the road, it's going to cost us way less than this car is actually worth. It's worth at least £35,000 with 16,000 miles on the clock. But it's been later brought to my knowledge that only 5 BMW M3s with this in this colour, Yasmarina blue, are in the UK with that white interior. And somebody has also done the research for us as well, so shout out to you, that the registration plate on this car comes back with a BMW M3 which should have black interior. Ours has white interior. Now there is likelihood that someone could have switched the interior if they like it. I mean, I might have done that because it does look really nice with white interior. Now the other thing is, a BMW M3 in this colour got reported stolen on Facebook in 2023. And it looked exactly like this, and it did have white interior, but it didn't have this registration plate on. It had a completely different registration plate, which will show on the screen now. So, we've got pros, we've got cons, but we need to go through it and 100% make sure whether this car is stolen or not. So first off, let's go through the things on why we think it's not stolen before we go through the things.
Think that you're going to get picked when you enter something like this, and McLaren Plus allowed us to do that.
This just like is above and beyond. No way.
How good is that?
Now you're going to be craving that.
It's the best.
Classic New York toasted bagel.
Everybody, welcome to New York City. We're in Manhattan, Bailey's Corner Pub, 85th Street, York Avenue, Yorkville, never run, never will.
McLaren. Come on, Yo, who's Damn, McLaren, this is mine. Yeah, boy. Yeah.
It's an indescribable feeling the past 3 days.
There's no way. You called us mid-interview.
That was lit. Oh my God.
New York's Times Square, which tonight has been transformed into the world premiere of F1, the movie.
We are about to go inside at Radio City Music Club to see the F1 movie premiere. Lando said to us he liked it.
Most people like us don't really get to experience something like this, and it's amazing that McLaren has done this. Incredible end to an amazing couple of days.
Pool days, ever changed. Discover Evermore Orlando Resort, a new vacation destination featuring Orlando's first and only beach paradise. With crystal clear waters that span over 6 football fields in size. Book your stay today at evermoreresort.com.
Of why we think it is stolen. Number one, the registration plate here, which when you're checking for a car when you're buying it, lines up with this VIN number 7085, which is in the screen now. So that plate lines up with that VIN number, and also it lines up here, 7085. That's etched into the actual chassis leg. Also, inside the door, 7085 on an original, doesn't look really tampered with sticker. We have had a little scratch just to see if it'll come off, but it seems pretty solid. So the registration plate lines up with all of the VIN numbers, no problem at all. Next thing is the car vertical check. Some people would say, well, why wouldn't car vertical show up if it's stolen or not? Well, of course, on this registration plate here, if I car vertical check this registration plate, which is not a stolen car, which we've checked out on car vertical, it comes back with a completely clean check, and the mileage lines up with this specific car. So, of course, car vertical isn't going to show me that this is a stolen car if we're checking out a registration plate of a car which hasn't been stolen. Number 3, we have the logbook of the said stolen car, which lines up to the registration plate there, and the VIN number 7085 matches to the VIN number there. We've got the logbook, we've got the key. The only thing that seems fishy about this is the interior. So what are the chances that this interior has been bought and put in? It seems low, but there is a chance it could be. Remember my red BMW M3, I changed the interior in that because I wanted the bucket seats. Apparently this is a competition. So this has got all competition carbon fibre interior, it's got the competition seats, it's got all the carbon fibre here and the competition stitching on the seat belts as well. But this registration plate isn't an M3 competition. Now, again, there is a chance, a small chance, that someone could have put all the competition stuff inside the car, but a lot of effort to do on a non-competition car. But who knows? They could have done it. This is where the issues start. So this registration plate comes back as a non-competition BMW M3. So the difference between the non-competition and the competition M3 is you get more power in the competition, you get a slightly different differential, you get black exhaust tips. We've got black exhaust tips on a competition car. You get black badges on a competition car. We've got black badges on a competition car. You get the 20-inch alloys on a competition car. Everything on this car is telling me that that is a competition car, but the registration plate is telling me that it isn't, and the VIN number is telling me that it isn't. And also, on that registration plate and the VIN number, it's telling me it should have a black interior and it should be a standard trim, but it isn't. The car that got stolen is an M3 competition in Yasmarina blue with white interior, and there's only 5 in the UK with that lower mileage as well. And this is where it all begins on whether this car could actually have been involved in a little swap over, and we'll have to work out what we're going to do with it if that's the case. Let's go through everything which tells us it was stolen. On the screen now is the car that got stolen in 2023 with the registration plate LD18HBH. And you can clearly see from the photo it's got a white interior in, it's got the black competition style grills, it's got the carbon surround on the front. It does look like this car, I'll give it to them. It looks like this car. The only thing that's saying it isn't this car is because the registration plate isn't changed over, which this registration plate has been wood screwed in. So if we check out the registration plate of the car that got posted on Facebook in 2023 saying it was stolen, I can see that it is marked as stolen. It says theft, critical issue found, currently wanted as stolen. It's never been found, okay? And then we go through another thing that it says that it was damaged. It doesn't actually say it was categorized. So it's likely that it could have had a repair on the supposed stolen car. So it could have been damaged, the guy drove it for a while, a couple years later, because it got damaged in 2021 and then stolen in 2023, could have been damaged. Now there's a few signs that this car was damaged when it should be a clean title. For example, yeah, we found some of the paint drips here, which says it's been painted on this side. I mean, it could be incorrect, but it's saying here that the damage was recorded as rear, front and left side. This is the right-hand side. It could have been damaged on that side and it could have had a repair, but if it was repaired, it was quite a good repair because all the original bolts...
Did you know that your internet connection can make you money? It's possible with Honeygate. Honeygain is the leading app that pays its users for sharing their internet bandwidth. That means you can earn anywhere from $10 to $30 per month by helping us gather publicly available online data. Our community has millions of Honeygainers from over 150 countries, and you can be a part of the...
So there's nothing obvious I can see that it's had a bit of a knock or anything. The only other thing I see, which could have been done at Copart, is like there's all like broken bits in the bumper here, and like this bit's got a little crack and a bulge in the bumper, which could come to the rear damage part of it, but I don't know. Let's move on to the next thing on why it could be the stolen car. Now what's interesting is MDataWorks has found this out, that if he searched for the stolen car's registration plate and VIN number, he can see where that car has been serviced and when it was serviced. And the interesting thing is we can see that that car was serviced on the 14th of October 2021 at 10,200 miles. And it was also serviced on the 28th of June 2021 at 8,000 miles. This is the stolen car. Now remember, when we went onto the iDrive and we had a look before we brought the car in, when this car had been serviced, funny enough, it got serviced on the exact same dates and mileage that the stolen car did. Bit fishy that one, isn't it?
That's a massive sign.
Yeah, so look, 10,203 miles on our iDrive on the 14th of the 10th, 2021. 14th of the 10th, 2021. This is on the stolen car service history, 10,203 miles. It was serviced, a Yas Marina Blue with a white interior car was serviced at the exact same time a Yas Marina Blue with a supposed black interior car was serviced at the same dealership, the same mileage. It's not happening, is it? So there's our first, like, almost confirmation clue. Then we've got, obviously, 24th of June, 2021, 8,806 miles. The stolen car was serviced. On our iDrive, we've got the 24th of June of the 6th at 6,940 miles. The mileage is slightly different there. It could be a problem, but it's on the same date. Okay, so this could be the stolen car. So then what the hell... Why do we have the VIN number and the registration plate of a car which is also Yas Marina Blue? What is that car? Well, this person has also found this out. MDataWorks has also found it out. The non-stolen car, which we have the registration plate and the VIN number on this car of, was last serviced in Cyprus 2022. Now, there is a chance this car's been to Cyprus and come back and had a different interior swapped in and been serviced at the exact same time the stolen car's been serviced. The chances of that and been sold at Copart, very, very slim chance. Very slim chance. So how have we ended up with a car that potentially is the wrong car? The non-stolen car, which we've got the registration plates off and the VIN number on, could have just been disposed of. It was last seen in Cyprus. How do we know it wasn't crashed in Cyprus or just stripped for parts in Cyprus after that? And then that VIN number has gone on to this supposed stolen car. It happens. These people are doing crazy, crazy jobs now. We've seen it on Mark McCann's channel where someone's changed a whole chassis leg just to change the VIN number over. Which brings me on to my next point of why this car might not be the car that we originally thought. Here's a non-painted side, right? Non-painted, looks very nice, yeah? All good. Original sticker, I would say, looks pretty nice. Now, this car shouldn't have any damage to it because it's never been recorded as damage. There's no reason why there should be any repair on it. Where this VIN number is looks legit as anything. Here, I see a bit of sanding marks, and look at the paint.
Here you can see a massive difference. That's OEM paint and that has been rubbed down or painted.
What I don't understand is they painted this bit, or this bit has come off a Yas Marina Blue car, the one that's maybe come off in Cyprus, and they've put this in, and it could have been Yas Marina Blue, slightly different on the inside. But to get this VIN number etching here, which also has loads of overspray on this part of the car as well, so they're not even taking that off, silly. If there was damage to this part here and they have replaced it, you have to go to BMW to get this re-etched in, and like it's a whole different process. And also, if your car was damaged here, why is it only the panel with the VIN number on that was damaged here and not this panel as well? It's so unlikely. This panel with the VIN number on has been changed.
What do you think?
This is unbelievable.
Did you know about this?
No.
You only just found out?
I've just been listening to Matt, yeah.
Another thing, Everyone knows that a BMW F80 M3 should have a key which looks like this. This is the mileage, same year of the car. All the keys look like this. Matt's got a 116R and the key looks like that. Our key looks like that. That's a new BMW key. Now, it's possible they could have lost the key, or 2 keys, but it's only had 2 previous owners apparently. So if it's only had 2 previous owners, then the chances of them losing 2 keys is very unlikely. So
now I use Whisperflow. I just think out loud and it creates perfect formatted text on any Apple website. Whisperflow understood what I was trying to say and gave me the exact output I wanted.
Maybe someone took this car without the keys, stole it, and then made a new key, and then put different registration plate on, different VIN number on. It is possible, it's not facts just yet. Another crazy thing is that we question the mileage on the car. But the M3, the M3 which this registration plate should be, does line up with the mileage on this car. And also, the stolen car's mileage was also very low. In 2023, when it was stolen, at 9,572 miles. That was the last record of it. So the mileage is pretty similar. If it is the case that this is a stolen car and everything is swinging now towards this is a stolen car, this isn't no good. But along with that, how long was this on the road for before, and did the previous owner of this car know it was stolen? One thing says to me that the previous owner knew it was stolen because they sold it through Copart, which is slightly worrying, and they also chose not to fix it, and they also look like they mistreated it a bit by driving it with a knock and not really caring about it. If you got the car for like £5,000, who's going to care if you sell it at Copart for 23 the next day? Because if they bought it stolen, knowing it was stolen, they wouldn't have paid 23 grand for it, would they? But if they paid £5,000 for it, of course they're not going to care about it. Of course they're not going to wash the steering wheel. And of course they're going to wrap the bonnet to make it look a little bit different than the car that was apparently stolen.
Can we get the engine number off either this car or the stolen car and check it with the engine number on this? So the registration book for this, which we've got, have we? Yeah. Or we sent it away?
We've got, well, we sent away now.
That'll have an engine number on it.
Oh, okay. So let's check. Engine number 05315212.
So if this engine is that number,
this should be the car that was last serviced in Cyprus. Could have gone on holiday. But if it doesn't match this, there's something very suspicious.
So I might not be rebuilding in the car yet.
05315212.
and then this number says 01995252. It's different.
It's different, isn't it? Okay, so that confirms. Do you know what would 100% confirm it? If we knew the engine code of the supposed stolen car. Now, can we ring BMW and give them the registration plate of the stolen car and ask them what the engine code would have been? Would they be able to tell us that?
I would have thought so.
That would be quite good, wouldn't it?
We're proper being Sherlock Holmes here.
We'll give him the registration plate of the stolen car and see if he'll find out what the engine code should be of the stolen car, and if it matches up to that, we've bought a stolen car and we've stripped it to bits. Could you find out, if I give you a registration plate of a BMW, what the engine code was of a specific car? Like if I give you the reg?
Yeah, that's fine. You got the chassis or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send me the chassis, that'll be the best way.
So if I send you the chassis number, you can find out what the engine code's supposed to be for that chassis number?
Yeah.
Okay.
So does that mean if he comes back with the number,
and
that number says this is the stolen car?
Yeah.
Oh, this is exciting. Do you know if this is a stolen car though?
Yeah.
The police will just come round and seize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's stolen.
You can't hold stolen goods in the UK. They'll just take it, regardless of how much you paid for it. You'll lose the money.
So if you're following up to this point right now, we've got 2 potential cars that this car could be. At the minute, it could be a legitimate car. The only thing that's saying it isn't a legitimate car is that the registration plate that's on it should be a non-competition car, and this is 100% an M3 competition. A car in this colour with white interior got stolen in 2023, and it looked very, very similar to this car. The only thing that doesn't match is the VIN number and registration plate of the car that's stolen. But we've now later found that the engine code is not matching up to the